Coming up on this week's episode, we discuss Bournemouth, Leicester and Arsenal. We also have all the usual features, so let's get started. Hello and welcome to a new episode of View from the Sideline podcast. It's Chris here and Liam is here as always. Hello Liam.
Good evening Chris, how are you doing?
Better than last week.
A little bit.
But I'm in the...
A bit, didn't you? You made hard work of it against...
Yeah. Well, the sending off didn't help. So.
No, you were down to 10 quite.
But it's a bit of a weird one today because we're actually playing now as well, so the mood could change dramatically halfway through. So who knows?
We've got a bit of a final score situation because you're watching Chelsea and I'm currently watching Everton Leeds because Villa aren't playing till tomorrow. So, I'm obviously not hoping that Leeds get absolutely smashed, but also secretly am.
Right, so we're actually recording a day later than normally, and it's actually kind of worked out better for us, not so much for Scott Parker. So we'll go in with this week's talking points, and we'll start with Bournemouth. I mean, what a weekend and the start to the week they've had. I mean, there's no hiding from the fact that you lose 9-0, and then obviously today they announced this morning that Scott Parker had been sacked from his job. So we weren't actually going to talk about Scott Parker, but I think we definitely are now. So I felt it was incredibly harsh. I mean, they haven't had the easiest of fixtures to start with. And I like I said, I know you can't hide from a 9-0, but I don't really know what I know they're not expecting to lose 9-0, but with the fixtures that they've had, I mean, they were always going to struggle, because they haven't obviously spent as much money as the other teams that have been promoted. So, I mean, I was quite shocked when I found out. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I was. And, I mean, you say they didn't have the easiest of starts. They played against Villa and won. So they didn't.
That was the only game that they won.
But you're right. Arsenal, Man City and Liverpool in the next three games? For a newly promoted side, obviously I know they've been in the Premiership before, but for a newly promoted side, you look at those games and you think your season's not going to be defined by games, especially away from home at Anfield, and playing against like Man City and Arsenal. You go into those games and you think any point is going to be a bonus out of that. They're going to be towards the bottom. We knew that. So it's a free hit for them, really. I know it's not nice to lose 9-0, but we've seen it happen in the Premier League before. Southampton.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
And they've kept their manager.
Yeah, they didn't sack him.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say, each time Southampton have lost 9-0, they've gone on a decent run. Not long after, it sort of galvanised the team a little bit.
Yeah.
Them together, and I remember. When they lost 9-0 to Leicester, I think they played Man City away the next game. Everyone was fearing the worst, and they got a really good 1-1 draw out of it. So I'm not saying that's the same for everybody, but you've got to give them a chance. I mean, 4 games into the season, you got you promoted last year, probably the best team in the Championship last year as well, or at least got the fewest defeats, I think, last year. Came up with a decent style of football. I know he's not spent a lot, but I don't know whether that's board restraints or he's just not found the right targets or what. But I just think it's harsh 4 games into a, you've got to, it sounds daft, but even to get to 10 games now, I think is reasonable. The way that teams hire and fire managers these days.
It's
so early on one defeat. It sounds to me as though there's something going on in the background. Maybe he's had a falling out with the board over transfer policy or something.
Well, yeah, because
can't be just on the pitch, surely.
This is what I was going to lead to. So, this is only rumours and such, but I've heard that they weren't able to spend as much as they would have liked to, purely on the basis that in January last season, they obviously spent quite a bit of money to obviously bolster them, coming up.
Yeah.
And it seems like that they spent quite a bit and, to make sure they were going to finish first. And it's obviously meant that they couldn't, spend as much now. So, I don't think that's at no fault of Scott Parker, to be fair. And, I agree with what you said. It's just, they're not going to be, an away trip to Anfield isn't going to be, it's not going to be what they're going to be judged on. It's going to be judged on them beating the teams around them. So, I just, I was very surprised. Looking at the game, it wasn't great. I don't think there's any hiding from the fact that, they did get beat very, very convincingly, and it could have been a whole lot worse. I mean, Salah didn't get a goal or an assist, but he could have had a hat-trick.
Yeah.
So, it could have been the first 10-0 in Premier League history, but, I just think it just doesn't set the right tone, I don't think, for the season for them now. I think he's had all summer working with those players.
Yeah.
And now 4 games in, they've sacked him, which means they've got to look for another manager who then has got he'll have his own style of play. It would be different to what Scott Parker's is. That means that those players have now got to learn everything from the start again. But obviously this time they've got to do it whilst they're actually playing actual football, in the Premier League. So I don't think it helps one bit. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think if you look at it from, the bigger picture, yes, you've lost 9-0, but he's worked with these players for the last sort of 2 years. He's got his own style of play. And I mean, to be fair, yes, they lost 9-0, but the other games that they played against, Arsenal, Man City, they weren't terrible. They had chances in those games, and like you said, they beat Villa as well. So, yeah. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things where it's not going to help them, and if anything, it's probably going to make them play worse, I think. And I think I'd already tipped them to go down, so it's not going to change my mind anyway, really.
Think of the players they've just signed as well. I know we just said they've not been as active in the transfer window for the promoted teams, but you've just signed for Bournemouth. 4 games into the season, that manager who signs you has gone. You're not going to know whether you're in favour or out until the next manager comes in, which is probably going to be in, a game or 2. Your career at Bournemouth could be over basically before it started, all because of the result. It's very reactionary, and I also think now it sets a precedent for the rest of the teams in the league. Obviously, Villa are struggling. Gerrard's currently one of the favourites to lose his job next. Lampard is going to be one of those favourites to lose his job next. It might panic other teams into doing something similar. And I think we could see quite a few early changes of management now based on this. Obviously, Parker's now gone. That means that Sean Dyche is the favourite to take over. He would be probably the first manager on everyone's shortlist for a team who's got rid of their manager near the bottom half this season.
Yeah.
So there's going to be if another team thinks he would be their target, they're going to want to make a move quite quickly to get him in as well. So, who knows what's going to happen. And I'm sure you're dying to update us on the Chelsea game, Chris, because I've seen it flash up on my screen.
Well, it was 1-0. It's 1-1 now.
Okay, I've not got it.
Southampton just scored.
Okay.
Corner. But Sterling did score before that. They've only just scored, so 1-1 now. We'll move over to another team that seem to be quite struggling at the moment, and it's the team that Chelsea actually beat at the weekend, Leicester. Obviously, Chelsea went down to 10 men, and then still ended up winning the game. It just doesn't seem there doesn't seem that much fight in this Leicester team anymore. It just seems that they've lost too many of their high profile players. Vardy's getting on a bit now, isn't he? Like in terms of a football player. I think it's just gone a bit stale for them. They won the FA Cup a couple of years ago, and since then they haven't really, put up any sort of challenge to try and get into that sort of top six again. I don't know whether it's the manager but I've heard again, for them they haven't really brought anyone in, so they haven't really got anyone new, and they're about to lose probably one of their best defenders, Fofana, to Chelsea. So I think it all seems to be sort of falling apart there, and I think even Maddison has been tipped to leave. I know Newcastle were interested in him. I don't know if that's going to go any further, but they just seem to be really struggling.
Yeah, I know that before summer began, Rodgers said that the only sort of money they would have to spend is money they would get through selling players.
Yeah.
So it was never going to be a busy summer for them in terms of people coming in. I'm surprised they've waited this long to sell Fofana, because he's not got a lot of time to get a replacement in.
No.
I'm assuming they're going to get a replacement in. I can't imagine them not. They are short at the back,
yeah.
So I imagine they'll use that 70, 80 million, whatever's been agreed, to bring someone in before the deadline. But if that is going to be your summer, you want that business done early, don't you? You don't.
Oh yeah.
Wait till the last minute to find a replacement. So that has left me a little bit confused, to be honest. But you say that they've lost some big players. I know they've lost a couple, but they've still, Vardy is getting on a bit, but he's still a good striker. Tielemans is still there. Schmeichel was the big one for me. To let him go so easily, was a strange one, and then to not bring a goalkeeper in, because he didn't even go for really much money. I don't think
a couple million, wasn't it? It wasn't.
It
wasn't much at all.
That was a bit of a strange one. Rodgers is obviously under pressure, and you can understand why with Leicester being where they are at bottom of the league at the moment. So I don't know where they go from here. They obviously flirted with Europe and got in and did quite well in Europe last year, and I think I go back to the Villa team when O'Neill was there. We were so close to breaking into the top 4 or 5, but it was still a big step for us to go.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they found that ceiling. I know they broke into the top 4 a little bit, but to keep that up, you've obviously got to have sustained investment.
Spend a lot of money, haven't you?
Yeah. Got to spend, and I know they spent a lot of money on new training ground and facilities and academy, which looks great, and I'm sure in a few years' time we'll reap rewards. But in the meantime, I think they're going to have to put up with a barren couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, losing Fofana, I think they've got 2 days to find a replacement.
Yeah,
I mean that's not a long time at all, is it? When you think about it, to find someone, because they're going to want to spend sort of 30-40 million on a centre back at least, I would have thought.
Yeah.
I mean, there's rumours of Tielemans wanting to leave, but I've heard that he is going to stay on for another year, isn't he? And they're going to let him see out his contract. So
yeah, he's going to go for free, isn't he?
Which seems really odd to me, when they could probably get 30 or 40 million for him now.
Yeah.
So it seems very odd that they're just going to let him see out his contract and then let him go for free. So yeah, it just doesn't seem quite right there at the moment, and we'll see what they do with the Fofana money. I mean, I don't know if you heard, but he's gone to the USA to have his medical. I mean, that's some trip just for a medical.
Yeah.
I think Chelsea, they want to make sure, obviously, because he broke his fibula, didn't he? So they wanted to. I think they're doing extra tests to make sure that everything is fit and proper there. But from what I've heard, I don't think they're that worried that he's not going to fail anything. So I mean, they'll get the money, and it's up to them what they do with it now. I think they need a striker as well. I think.
Yeah, I think they do. I look at Vardy obviously being, I think, 34, 35 now.
Yeah.
I know he's probably still got the legs in him for this season, but you've got to look, and I said this last season, you've got to look at a long-term replacement for him, because he's not going to last forever. The pace that he's got as well, you naturally have a striker like that and they pick up injuries here and there, muscle injuries. He uses his speed a lot. I remember when we had Agbonlahor, when he was young, he would use his pace to great effect. I don't know how Vardy's managed to do it for so long, but then injuries come about and they lose that pace almost overnight, and it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah, and I mean,
someone.
Iniacho they've got as well, but he's not. I don't think he's going to set them alight, is he, when he starts playing more? So we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. But I mean, how long do they give Rodgers until they think that they need to freshen it up? Because that's what they might be thinking. And like you said earlier, now that they've broken, now that the sacking of one manager has broken the seal, we could see a few more.
Yeah,
go.
Who would they bring in? I suppose it depends what their ambition is.
Yeah, I mean,
I think this season it'll just be stability. So who would you bring in? I suppose for that. And again, you'd look at Dyche being probably a leading candidate, but I don't know. I don't know what else there would be at the moment.
It's too early. That's the problem. It's just too early to be sacking managers anyway. So. Right, we'll move on to Arsenal briefly, and the hype around them at the moment, obviously with them 100% so far this season. I thought they, business, like transfer wise, I think they've done, exceptionally well. They brought in Jesus, who, they needed a striker. They found him, and Zinchenko as well. I thought he first, 3-4 games, he's done exceptionally well. So they've definitely, I think for the first time in a few years, they've actually bought, one, what they needed, two, a bit of, class and finesse to the team, and three, they haven't had to spend huge amounts of money on these players either. So, I mean, they already had a fairly decent team as well when you think about it. Odegaard, he's probably been their best player this season. He had a decent season last season. And you got Saka as well. And they've got a fairly decent young team. Like even their defence at the moment looks half decent. So, they're obviously at the moment doing something right. The only thing I would say on Arsenal is that, the fixtures that they have had, I would say have been quite favourable, and they are probably games that you would probably expect them to win. And I think their real test will come soon. I think they've got Man United at the weekend, so I think we'll see the true Arsenal side when you see them come up against those sort of other top six sides. So we'll have to obviously wait and see, how they do against them. But I've been pretty impressed with Jesus. I know he had a really good pre-season as well, and I don't think they were. After obviously Aubameyang left last season, I don't think they really ever recovered from having a striker. And Nketiah, he did okay. Lacazette again, he was okay, but again, they both didn't really score that many goals. So
yeah, I think the transfer window for them this summer has been a good one. I don't think I expected them to gel as quickly as they have. No. Jesus, I always thought was a decent sign-in. I always thought if he had a run of games at City that he would do quite well, but then he kind of did have a run of games last year and it didn't really work for him. And I was there thinking it could have gone one or two ways, couldn't it? And I guess it still could because it's early days. He's either going to be a huge success and we're all going to sit there and say what a player City had that they didn't use properly, or he's going to be a flop and he's going to go for, free at the end of his contract and hardly play for Arsenal again. But it looks so far like a really good signing. Zinchenko is the one that I thought was a really, really good bit of business.
Yeah.
But having said that, I thought if there was any position that I didn't think Arsenal really needed help in, it's probably at left back, because I thought Tierney was probably one of their better players last season. He sort of did go in and out of form a little bit, but I think he's a solid left back. But I think that's a really good sign-in. Odegaard has been like a new player this season so far. He's playing with confidence. What interests me is their team at the minute doesn't really seem to contain Smith Rowe, and I don't know how happy to be sort of playing second fiddle to Odegaard this season. I guess we'll sort of see how that goes. But like we were saying, a lot of this talk has been about managers getting sacked too soon. How close was Arteta to being let go last season?
Oh yeah.
And look at the rewards they're getting now for keeping him in and giving him another couple of transfer windows, and he's turned it around. Albeit, like you say, it's not been the toughest start for them this season, but for a team last season that I think really struggled to have an impact on the top end of the table, I think this year I'd be, if I was an Arsenal fan, disappointed not to get top four this season. In fact, with the start they've had and the way they've been playing, they will probably look to be best of the rest. I think behind maybe Liverpool and Man City, they will look for that third place. I thought it would be probably Chelsea's all season long, but that's going to be their competition now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, when you compare the starts that Arsenal have had to Chelsea, I mean, it says it all really where they are in the league at the moment. But with Chelsea, I don't think Arsenal are going to sign any more players, and I think Chelsea will probably be the busiest team come sort of tomorrow and Thursday. So, and it might take a few weeks for the new players to gel in. I'm confident that they'll get a striker, whatever striker that may be, and obviously the Fofana deal looks almost there. So, that will certainly bolster the defence and the attack, which is where I think that we most need help right now. I mean, the midfield seems to be okay. We see it's quite a crowded position in the midfield, and I think we will probably lose a few. I think Gallagher may go, but obviously Barkley in the last sort of 24, 48 hours mutually agreed to terminate his contract, so we'll see where he ends up as well. I've heard he might be going to Rangers, but
it's a brave move from him to do that. I think. I think it's quite a smart move because he can sort of he's not restricted by the transfer window closing. But yeah, it's a brave move to just cancel the rest of your contract. I mean, that is your payday at the end of the day, isn't it? Yeah. He's obviously desperate to get. It shows his intent to want to play football over money. So I think it's probably a good move for him. I think he'll get a few teams interested in him now he's done that, because they'll know that he wants to play football. Go there for a payday. So yeah, and I think is Palace who bid, I think, for Gallagher in the last day or two. Have they? I think 20.
Yeah, I think
like that.
Yes, we'll have to see whether Chelsea want to actually let him go or whether they want to let him go on loan. Obviously, Hudson-Odoi has gone today on loan, which probably suits both Chelsea and him. Because I think he is a very good player. Just opportunities just haven't come his way, and it's good for him to get some experience. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but I think it'll be quite a busy Wednesday and Thursday for Chelsea. Right, that is the end of part one. We'll be back in part two with a quiz. Who am I? And some more Wonders of White. So we'll be back in two. Hello and welcome back to part two of this week's podcast. We're going to go into the Wonders of White. Since March, no team have scored more points than Tottenham.
Interesting.
Yeah. Good start to the season, and a fairly decent start to the end of the season. Funny to say this. So Celtic's 9-0 win against Dundee is a club record, and I believe that the Dundee United manager got sacked as well.
He did, yeah. 2 9-0 and 2 manager sackings.
So he was another one that got. Raheem Sterling become the third player to score for Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool.
Are you going to ask me to name the other two?
Well, you can have a stab at it if you really want to.
Have you got them in front of you?
Yeah, I've got them. Yeah.
I reckon Sturridge is one, isn't he?
Yeah, he is one.
Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea. Anelka?
It is Anelka. I mean, obviously he played for Liverpool a very, very long time ago. So, and Benzema has scored 28 goals this calendar year. No one has scored more in the top 5 leagues.
He's having a new lease of life, isn't he? Because it sort of went a bit quiet for him at Madrid for a little bit, but he's definitely the main man now.
Yeah. So, that was the one as well. So Southampton are winning 2-1 at half time. But I would just like to add that Jorginho's just been fouled before the half-time whistle, and Che Adams has just smacked the ball in his face. So yeah, that won't get reviewed. So, I believe you have a quiz, Liam.
I do have a quiz this week. I was sort of scraping around for a topic this week, and then I noticed that Dele Alli had moved to Besiktas. So I thought, what better topic than a quiz on British players abroad? So I've got 10 questions about British players playing abroad in a foreign country. But there is a potential bonus point up for grabs. So you can theoretically get 11 out of 10 here.
Oh, right.
But we'll see how you get on. I don't know. It's one of those quizzes where I think you're either going to get like 2 or you're going to get 8. So who knows? But let's see.
Who knows?
Are you ready?
I hope so.
Question number 1. Which English player scored a hat-trick for Barcelona against Real Madrid in 1987?
Oh, I mean, there can't have been that many.
I don't think there is that many English players that have played for Barcelona, to be honest.
Well, the only one I can think of is Gary Lineker.
Correct, it is indeed Gary Lineker, and they love him out there as well. I don't know if you've ever.
You told me this, didn't you? About I swear it was it you that told me about how much they love him in Barcelona?
Yeah, so I went to Barcelona a few years ago and did the tour of the Nou Camp, and they've got their own little part of the Nou Camp museum, like dedicated to Gary Lineker, which was just really odd. And it tells you that, like, the story of his life and the English lad that came over and did well for Barcelona. But yeah, well done. Question 1 done. Question number 2. We're going to stay in 1987. I'm sure you're pleased to hear.
Okay.
On November the 11th in 1987, which Welshman played 2 games in one day? The first being for Wales against the Czech Republic in Prague. The second being for Bayern Munich versus Borussia Mönchengladbach in a cup.
It's Mark Hughes. I know this one because this is the thing. Like I said the other day, where we've been doing quizzes for so long, you kind of see things that you don't necessarily put into a quiz, but you still see it and you kind of just retain it in your head. But no, yeah, it's Mark Hughes.
It is indeed, yes. You wouldn't get that these days, would you? I mean, it's in 2 different countries as well.
I mean, fair play to him.
The effort for that is incredible. Okay, well done. 2 out of 2. Obviously, this quiz is too easy for you. Question number 3. Gareth Bale recently left Real Madrid after scoring a surprising 106 goals, considering they hated him. But which American club does he now play for?
It is Los Angeles.
It is indeed Los Angeles FC. I thought I might trip you up on that because I could have sworn it was LA Galaxy, but it's not.
No, I remember being Los Angeles FC, yeah.
So 3 out of 3 so far. And question number 4 is about another Welshman who's recently been...
Is this just a quiz on Welshmen?
It is not. All the Welsh questions are all in one, so I just wanted to get them out of the way.
Right.
So, yeah, another Welshman on the move recently is Aaron Ramsey. Which French team does he now play for?
Nice.
Nice. It is. Yeah. Well done. 4 out of 4.
Because they are owned... Aren't they owned by the same... the billionaire guy in the UK?
Oh, I'm not too sure. I always just assumed they were owned by the Biscuits company. I've no idea, to be honest. No idea. But I just thought it was I knew he'd left Juventus, but I didn't actually know where he ended up. So, yeah, it is Nice. Gets a bit more difficult now. We're away from the Welsh.
Oh.
Going to PSV Eindhoven, who've currently got
Okay.
2 England youth internationals in their team. Can you name either of them?
Oh, my word. I will just say straight away that no, I cannot.
You cannot. One of them is Jared Branthwaite, on loan from Everton,
Oh,
and the other one is
maybe I
not
would have.
Madueke,
Mm,
who
mm.
they signed from Spurs in 2020, who is actually doing very well.
Oh, Madueke, yes, I know. No, I have heard of him.
Yeah, I think he's a winger or a right back.
Didn't realise he was English, to be honest with you. But
He
yeah.
is. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Okay.
So this question has bonus points available.
Oh,
So Jude Bellingham became the most expensive 17-year-old when he moved from Borussia Dortmund in 2020. What championship club did they sign him from?
Birmingham.
Correct. And for a bonus point, can you tell me the number of the shirt they retired in his honor?
22.
Correct. Well done. So you're technically now on, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're on 6 out of 6 so far.
It's
100%.
one of those where it's just so ridiculous that they did that with a shirt you just don't forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 22 has been retired because a guy played 1 season for them.
Oh dear.
Question number 7.
Yeah.
David Platt, remember David Platt,
I do
left
remember him.
in 1991 and he played for 3 different Serie A clubs before he joined Arsenal in 95. Can you name any of the 3 Serie A clubs he played for?
Any of them.
Any of them.
This. I am gonna take a guess and say I think he would have played for quite a high. I can't for the life of me think of. I think he would have played for a high profile one, but I think it's probably one that aren't so. I'm gonna say Sampdoria because I know a lot of people played for them back in the 90s.
You would be correct. Sampdoria is one of the 3 teams. Any guesses on the others, or do you want me to spoil you one?
I have no. Maybe Milan or Juventus. I don't know.
Juventus was another one.
Oh.
He wasn't there very long, but he played for Bari, Juventus, and Sampdoria. And I think he did quite well at Bari and Sampdoria, but he didn't get much game time at Juventus by the looks of things. But we're going to stay in Serie A. Which former England international played for Lazio for 3 years between 1992 and 1995?
Paul Gascoigne?
Correct. Paul Gascoigne it is. You're on fire tonight, Chris. I have a feeling that you're going to get all of these. Maybe I have made them too easy for you recently. Question number 9. Yeah. Which Englishman was sent off and scored an own goal on his Real Madrid debut against Atletico Bilbao?
Jonathan Woodgate.
Correct. In one of the funniest games, I think, ever.
Was it his only ever appearance for Real Madrid?
I don't think he played. I mean, he joined them and then
He probably got injured.
He was injured for about 18 months, I think, when he joined them. So, yeah, and then his debut sent off.
What a weird signing that is. Jonathan Woodgate playing for Real Madrid.
It's going back some as well now. But he was good back then, and then, obviously, injuries.
I'm pretty sure it's him. He scored the winning goal last time Spurs won a trophy. Sorry, Spurs fan. Put that in there.
Nice one to raise it up. So, for 4 marks and 10 out of 10, who became the first Englishman to play in Russia after joining FC Rostov from Spurs in 2012? Probably the most difficult one of the questions here, but I think...
Did you say Englishman?
He is an Englishman.
To play in Rostov. I haven't. Englishman playing 2012. Mate, it's this get me because I actually haven't got a clue. I'm going to have to take a guess. Oh, 20. When did you say it was?
2012,
2012.
he left Spurs and joined FC Rostov.
What weird move that is as well.
I'm going to see if I can give you a clue by telling you how long he played for FC Rostov.
I don't think it's going to make a difference if I'm honest.
Oh, it was only on loan, actually. So apologies, it was on loan.
I just have to take a guess at someone like Huddleston or O'Hara.
You're in the right era. It was David Bentley.
Oh my god, his name actually came into my head as well, but I thought Bentley was like 2005, 2006.
No, I mean, he didn't play for Spurs for a long time. I'm looking at his stats now. In 5 years at Spurs, he played 42 games. So he had a lot of time out injured.
Okay.
And in fact, his last game for Spurs was in 2010 by the looks of things. So he had a good 3 years basically doing nothing. Retired after that. So, yeah, he retired early.
Rostov was too much for him.
Rostov was clearly too much. I mean, the 8 games he played for them was obviously way too much. Unlucky though, 9 out of 10 is still a very good score.
Technically 8, because I did get another one wrong, but I got a bonus. You were generous enough to give me a bonus point.
Yeah, so. I had to add that in there, just for a bit of fun.
Okay, right, well, we'll move on to Who Am I? Right, how do you want it? Start to finish or finish to start?
Let's go start to finish.
Okay, right. So, this is in the order. Obviously, I can't give you the current team, so that tells you he is still playing.
Nice.
So, we've got Arsenal, Barcelona, Chelsea, Monaco B,
Ooh.
and then
his current team.
His current team, yeah.
So, I think his current team is a team in Italy, isn't it? I think.
No comment.
I think he's basically done a tour of London, Barcelona, Monaco, and now I think he's playing for Lake Como. I think it's Fabregas.
It is Fabregas. I mean, what a career he had.
I know. Not bad places to live in.
He played for the second best team in London and the first place. He did the second first and then the first last. So, he actually played. So he played 212 games for Arsenal. He played 96 for Barcelona, but he played 138 for Chelsea.
Oh, I didn't think it would be that many. I only remember him being there a year or two.
He is, Lake Como. And I believe that Thierry Henry is putting some money into this team as well.
So probably a good football manager, Dave, I think.
Yeah, very, very good. So yeah, that is it for this week. Have you anything else to add, Liam?
I just wondered, Chris, if you were going to give us a Yeovil update.
I mean, I can give you a Yeovil update next week if you want.
Yeah, I think we should. We've not had one for a little while. I wonder how they're doing.
Yeah, I can give you an update next week. Also, I will say this actually. So there is a team very local to me called Wincanton Town. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I haven't.
You've not. But they've actually reached the first sort of qualifying round for the FA Cup.
That's good going.
So they've come through a few of the preliminary qualifying rounds, and they're the lowest ranked side left in the competition. Now, although they were scheduled to play at home because the ground isn't ready, I believe, and there's nowhere else to play, they're actually playing they're actually going to be playing away to AFC Tottenham, who
local to me,
local to you. So Wincanton are playing AFC Tottenham on Saturday in the first qualifying round of the FA Cup. and they are the lowest ranked side left in the competition, and ridiculously haven't been chosen to be put on TV. They've decided to go with AFC Bury.
Strange one. I mean, I have a non-league club, Rugby Town. I don't know if I've mentioned them on the podcast before. We're still in the FA Cup as well. It's probably the furthest we've been for a number of years. And we got drawn against Grantham Town, at Grantham Town, only to find that a load of crows have dug up their pitch.
Oh.
So they can no longer play at Grantham Town, so they've actually had the opposite. So now we're playing at home on Saturday. So yeah, I'll give you an update next week as to how they've got on. But it's better than playing on a pitch full of crows.
But yeah, no, I thought I'd add that in there. So good luck to them, and good luck to rugby as well.
Thank you, Chris. It's much appreciated. We don't have any fans these days.
Yeah, I don't think Wincanton have, I've got thousands of fans, but yeah, no, very small little town. I actually lived there for a little bit, a few years back. Very small town, about 15 minutes from Yeovil, maybe. So yeah. Yep, so that's it for this week. And next week I will give you all a Yeovil update and a Wincanton Town and a rugby update as well. So we'll see you then.